I'm going to call to order the Troy Industrial Development Authority board meeting. It is June 21st, 2024. It is 11 a.m. We are going to start with the approval of the minutes from the May 30th board meeting for those that were present. Any questions or comments about the minutes, or otherwise do we have a motion for approval of the minutes?
Make a motion.
Tasha, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye. Abstain.
Yeah, who was, just for the record, who needs to abstain from that?
I
Just
did.
Sue, right? Yeah, great. On to the next item, the Executive Director's Report from Randy.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, don't have much to report on, just a few items. I'll start by just telling everyone, if you don't already know, Dylan Turek has moved on to greener pastures, so he will be missed. He's had a lot of success, I think, in his role as executive director of the IDA, and also even before that. So a lot of institutional memory that we're losing there, but anyways, that's just an FYI. The other thing I wanted to just mention was that the 155 River Street project, we've executed the agreement so that they can start claiming sales tax for the project that they're doing, the mixed-use development project that they're doing at 155 River Street.
Is that the one that was started, like, I don't know, 5 years ago or something?
Well, I don't know. That predates me, but I mean, that was approved by the Planning Commission back in 2021.
Oh, is that, okay.
It came through us late last year. It's the building with the jewelry store, or this kind of like
Tiffany glass
store. In the
Oh, that one. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
It's not the other, okay.
And they're doing that. There was a pause. They found out that they had to utilize all equity for the construction phase and then get the financing, so they paused a little, but then closed on the sales tax benefit as they're ramping up now. And then the pilot ideally would close before next March 1st to get it going. It's really, we're trying to couple that with their financing and try to time it up so it makes the most sense.
Okay. Another item is just an FYI, the Hendrick Hudson building, which is a participant in the pilot, I believe.
Yeah, the existing pilot.
Yeah, existing pilot. You know, that was a mixed-use building, some retail on the ground floor, and it had office space and some residential. They've lost their major office tenant, which I believe was the Attorney General's office, and they're going to be, actually they're going to be coming to the Planning Commission soon as a change of use, because they're going to convert all of the floors to residential. They're going to keep the ground floor as retail, but they're likely to come in and apply for, I'm not sure what it is, a revision or a new pilot, or...
They would come to us for sales and mortgage recording tax benefits on the new renovation, or the conversion, and ask us to take a look at the existing pilot, perhaps extend a few years. We'll kind of get to that part once we have an application in front of us and take a look at it. And in the usual course, we'll bring it to the board first and discuss and go through the hearing process after that.
Okay. And that's pretty much it. That's all I have.
Thank you, Randy. That concludes the Executive Director's Report. Let's move on to new business. We have, the first item is the approval for funds for the local waterfront revitalization plan. I don't have any more info in front of me to present on that. I apologize.
Yeah, and this is something I've recently learned about, is that you must have applied for and were awarded a grant from the Department of State to implement a local waterfront revitalization program, $100,000 grant. And at the time that the application was submitted and the award was made, between then and now, there was always an assumption, I don't know where that assumption came from, but there was an assumption that the IDA would contribute $17,647 towards that development of that program. And I don't believe there's been any formal action by this board to approve that. And so I guess the ask is that we approve it. I don't know about what the plan involves, or...
Yeah, is there anybody, before we've seen a lot of like these waterfront things come in front of us, but I don't have more details on this one, drawings, anything. But if there's any questions to address now, otherwise, if anyone wants to just put the motion forward to approve it.
Do you know if anybody else is putting money toward it?
Nope, it's just, at this point, it's, Department of State, for 100,000, and then us in for 17 change.
And it was definitely approved?
Oh, yeah, we're
So
waiting on the contract.
Okay,
Well, I mean, it was definitely approved from
the state.
But does anybody, what's the plan, like?
All right, well, I'm just learning about this as I've been debriefed by Dylan and before he departed. But it's preparation of what they call a local waterfront revitalization program, and it actually cites state law as to what that involves. But it's basically looking at doing a thorough assessment of existing and proposed land uses and water uses identified as part of the municipal waterfront revitalization area. Basically we have to come up with a program for waterfront development as defined in that revitalization area. It's sort of building off of what's already been identified for waterfront development in the comprehensive plan, and with a real focus on risk related to climate change, flooding improvements, to public access and recreational opportunities, and promoting economic development. So that's about as much information.
So will this be
as I have.
south of River Street? South of State Street?
Well, I get the sense that, they're talking about it in terms of 8 miles of shoreline. So that pretty much covers.
So Monument Square on down. Maybe,
Maybe South Troy all the way to North Troy. Yeah.
so we're going north.
But it would be a waterfront management program for the whole. I'm not sure what the defined, waterfront revitalization area is. That's a detail that.
Well, I'm just asking because we spent with $25 million on this, where the marina is up to where the Headley building is just, a few years ago. So I'm trying, determine, are we going north, south? Is it just this overall?
I think the program would identify what's already been done.
Mm-hmm.
as well as what could and should be done.
It's managed by the Department of State. The LWRP program is much like local code. You have your own rule, and you've recently gone through a code revision that it's really a planning tool. If you want to build something, you need to be consistent with certain zoning and go through a particular process for getting approval for a particular project. The LWRP is for waterfront communities to have an added layer of planning tool. So you generally need to be consistent if you're building on the waterfront, whether it's municipal, private, or otherwise. It needs to be consistent with that plan. It's also an onboarding for Department of State funding. When you're looking for state dollars out of the Department of State, you've got to be consistent with your LWRP, and the trick is to have one. And I think there are communities out there that haven't gotten to it yet, but if that is imminent, and it will define how much of the riverfront and establish that zone. And
Well, they're saying 8 miles, that would cover from Hannaford in Lansingburg all the way to the Manans Bridge.
yeah, it's the whole thing.
That would be everything. I mean, unless they're going south of that or something, that wouldn't make sense. So it must be, if it's 8 miles, it's the entire stretch.
From a developer's perspective, if you're applying for site plan on a riverfront property here in Troy, you'd be required to go through this planning commission and get whatever zoning attributes you might need to get from a zoning board or a historical review board. There's also, they would have to also let the Department of State know, and the Department of State will look at that adopted LWRP and be like, okay, is it consistent or is it not? So it's just another planning tool to kind of help you guide future development on your waterfront.
LWRP?
Local waterfront revitalization plan.
Okay.
Is there any place where this plan that's, as it stands, is listed, like is it on the city's website or anything like that?
I think this contract is to develop it. So there'll be, in order to adopt it and get it submitted and approved by the Department of State, the council would have to have public hearings and review it, and it's much like the code. Not as stringent, which that was painful, but you having lived through it. But it is a planning process. There is public comment, public input, things like that. So
There is a draft version.
is there one?
So, and you said it's building on like the comprehensive plan out that came years ago. It's just, this is specifically just going into more detail on the waterfront compared to that.
That's my understanding.
Yeah.
Having gotten through the code, I think that should be easier now. I would think that a lot of those planning tools and graphics and data is more readily available on a contemporary basis than perhaps it was perceived to be a heavy lift with the LWRP before. I think you probably can use a lot of that stuff that was generated for the code revision.
So are you suggesting that this is a good thing to do?
Well, yeah, I think in order for the city to get to the final plan and submit it to the Department of State, this is some soft dollars that the IDA would contribute to that. And you have projects all up and down the river, so it's within this board's wheelhouse to help if you're inclined.
If we wanted to read the draft, is it possible?
Sure. I would imagine, yeah, the draft that's there, and
Where?
as a condition of funding, perhaps some work product could land on this desk too.
Where is it?
Yeah.
I think it's on the website, but
Okay, all right.
Do we?
Do we want to put something like that in front of the board to review before voting on this, or do we want to and table this to the next meeting, or do you need the funds released within a timeline, like between now and, let's say, the July meeting?
Yeah, I don't think we have to make a decision here today. Because, we're essentially waiting. We had a meeting with the Department of State this week about this, and the contract is still in their hands. So they've got to get it through their process so that they can then send it to us and execute it from our end.
I mean, if this wouldn't slow, without the effect being to slow this down, like that's not the impression I'm trying to give, but if there's an opportunity to get more information ahead of the next meeting, that would be something I'd be interested in. Just from some of the comments from the board, if that would be Can we push this to the next meeting, or, again,
I'd like to
in
read
favor
it.
of that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so, for now, so we don't have to put any vote on this one, right? So we can just table this item until the next meeting, and with the intention of getting more information, just with the next package that comes out for us to review. That's okay? I mean, that's,
I don't,
Yeah.
it's fine.
yeah. Okay, on to item number 2. DeFazio's, or R&M Holdings of Troy, is asking for an extension on their sales tax benefit from I guess, a previous pilot that we had put out. Does, Frankie, doesn't give more info on that?
I can provide a little bit of historic background, and, as you might be aware, the IDA assisted with their project, I believe back in 2000 into 2000, pardon me, I'm getting old, 2020 into 2021. I believe it closed in 2021, if I recall. They had a number of environmental contamination issues and other things that kind of delayed their project. And in the normal course, when we close the transaction, we give them 12 to 18 months agent status to utilize the sales tax benefits and complete their project. They hit this stall where there was, I don't know about the number, but something like $1 million of added cost to the project, which held the completion up. I believe, just because I read it in the paper, the city's ARPA program was utilized to help get them kind of over that hump, and get that project completed. Now that they're back on track, their sales tax exemption, I believe, ended at the end of 2022. In the normal course, if a project, while they have agent status, experiences a delay or for whatever reason, the executive director has the ability to administratively, without having to come to the board, to give them a little more time, 6 months or a year, depending on the circumstances. Because this one fully expired before they could get the funding and the capital stack straightened out, this is on the agenda, just so the board's aware of it. We can get an approval to extend their sales tax exemption. I'm not sure if Danae or if Randy have heard from them directly in terms of what their new construction schedule looks like.
No, he just reached out to ask if he could get it extended, so he has to formally reach out to Randy.
We can get the board to cover it today.
Yeah.
Is a year, another year enough? That is the kind of the question, or do we give them until December or give them to next June? Conservatively, I think we could just say next June 30th might be a good solid year for them to get everything wrapped up and...
Kind of a slow moving project.
Yeah, I mean, and Albert will appreciate this, the project probably hasn't been reassessed yet either. So they've gone through their first 2 pilot years without the added value actually being abated, I'm guessing. We can confirm that with the assessor. So part of the downside here is they've used some pilot without actually having the benefit generated yet, but this isn't a request to recast that deal. It's more just to get the sales tax benefit.
Sales tax.
Yeah, so, and they'll use the benefit of the pilot once the assessor recognizes the project is being done and that added value is placed on the property. So as a, if we want to, if you guys are generally amenable to the concept of giving them an additional year, and you could just do a voice vote, and then Randy and I and Danae can take care of the paperwork. They're ready to do so.
Yeah, I think as long as we just clarify that we're looking at this extension for 1 year to essentially June 30th, 2025, that's what's on the table. Do we have any further questions or comments, or if not, do we have a motion to approve the extension?
I was leaning on the shorter extension,
The 6 months?
yes.
Anybody want to, we could, in a sense, you could continuously, you can extend and extend as long as you need to. I mean, that wouldn't be...
You can extend to the end of this year, and with the thought that they'll give us a report in December, and if that's good, we're good, and if they need more time, we could do an exercise like this in December, if that makes sense. So it's conservative.
To motivate, progress, I don't want to just let this to continue on, and, we're sitting here talking about it another 2 years later, there was another unforeseen circumstance. There, have been a lot of projects that have had unforeseen circumstances.
Weird times.
Yeah.
But, they seem to be doing okay. I can't get a pizza after noon there yet.
Well, just as the first idea then is, we are looking at an extension, to either be 6 months or a year. Do we want to do 6 months, show hands, or a year? 6 months?
6 months.
6 months.
6 months?
Yeah.
Great, okay, so thank you. Sorry, go ahead,
I got a
Albert.
question.
Yeah.
Does anybody know what it's gonna take to get it done? Like,
No, that's why 6 months is a safer.
It's
We
probably,
really don't have enough,
If they can get through all of their construction spend and get it fully equipped by the end of this year, that's great, because it was supposed to happen 2 years ago, right?
yeah, I know.
Um,
I mean, I live a block from you, I see they do work, and then they stop for a year. They started, I think it was last summer, they were working feverishly, then they stopped.
yeah, there was some underground storage tanks, like some oil things that I think kind of ground it all to a halt. I think it was an old garage or a warehouse that they bought.
Yeah,
and
but the
extended
bakery
it.
used to be.
Yeah,
right?
and before that, it might have been something
Wow.
dirtier, so they may have inherited an issue that created this problem. That's what I understood anecdotally, so.
Yeah.
I took a tour the other day, and it looked like the restaurant aspects were almost completed.
Pretty much there.
Oh, really?
I think there.
That would suggest 6 months is probably good enough.
I mean, in worse places.
Sure.
That's essentially what you just said.
No.
Yeah, I think 6 months is a great idea, if the board feels that way, and let's do it, and we can always revisit it if we need to, and ask them to come in and, talk to us about it ahead of that December meeting, just for more clarity.
Maybe some samples.
Yeah, and samples would be great. So now, just for clarity on the amendment, if we're looking at the R&M Holdings getting an extension on their sales tax benefit only for 6 months, ending December 30th, 2024, and to revisit this in December. Do we have a motion for approval?
So move.
Sue, do we have a second?
second.
Stephanie, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And no absence or abstains. Great.
Thanks, guys.
That concludes new business. We will go now into old business. We have request for wayfinding funding increase.
Okay, so, what this is about is, a few years ago, 2021, state had provided Troy a $10 million funding for its downtown revitalization initiative. And there's several projects that are funded through that initiative, 3 of which are the city's responsibility to implement. And one of them is the branding and wayfinding implementation, which was the time that project was presented to the state as part of the DRI application. It was a $1.36 million project. And at the time that the city applied, they were requesting $700,000 from state to support the project. And then there were some other funding sources that were identified to close the gap. Subsequently, state only awarded $363,000 to the project. And so the funding gap is much bigger than was originally anticipated. But one of the funding sources that was identified was IDA funding. In the application that was submitted to the state for this project, it was identified as $70,000. Danae had done some research and determined that this board had previously approved $61,700 to support that project. And so that's as way of background, the request is to increase that to $70,000 as was part of the original plan and submission to the state. Because we have a big gap to fill.
The actual amount is
The actual amount of the request is $70,000.
another 7.
No, increasing the 61.7 to 70.
And the 6170 was never agreed to before.
It was agreed to.
So this would wipe that out.
So it's another 93.
It's an extra, yeah, you know,
93.
9, yeah,
We're approving the difference.
we're approving the difference.
Okay, that was,
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, from, you said a 2020, or roughly, sometime 2021 approval, okay? So the difference being $8,300 increase on a previously agreed upon amount, from the IDA board. Another item where we don't have a lot of information or representatives from that project in front of us. Personally, I'm comfortable approving that amount just because it sounds like it's, if it's for wayfinding, signage, marketing, things like that, that makes a lot of sense. But, yeah, if this is something that we want to approve today, or just from other feedback on these other projects, if we're interested in holding this and getting more information in front of the board before going forward, we can probably do that too, unless, again, is there any time constraint?
Again, there's no time constraint.
Okay.
But I just to be better prepared for the next week, what sort of information are you really looking for? Just more details about the project.
Yeah, that's good, yeah.
so a certain amount was agreed on for a certain reason. What is the reason for the difference?
I don't know where that 61.7
That's an odd number.
came from, other than this board had approved it at the time. The 70,000 was what,
I understand that.
Yeah.
So do we have to go back and look back, and she'll go back and look in our notes and see why we agreed to the 61 and what was presented to us at that time?
yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's trying to bring up.
I thought we had I thought we might have the packet on the website, like their suggested designs. It was Tangram, it was like in 2018 that they started it, and Steve had, I think you guys had approved for the design part of it, and then they switched it where another agency was gonna cover the design part with Tangram, and we were gonna do the actual signage, but then it hasn't actually happened yet. So it's been on the books, but I don't know where he got that $61,000. I'm sure it was part of their final packet. I can send that to you guys. I know we have it, it's just not, looks like it was never put on the website.
Yeah, I mean, we had contracted with Tangram to do design and to develop bid documents for implementation. And that was all done. And then we went out for RFP to get, you know, someone to fabricate the signs and then actually put them in place according to the plan of action that Tangram had developed for us. But that just never moved forward. I mean, one, the RFPs came in higher than we anticipated. You know, and this is all history that I'm trying to learn. But, you know, subsequently, the opportunity came along to apply to the state for the CRI funding. This project was included within that. And it's all together, it includes implementation of this signage, includes some more branding for the Riverwalk, it includes a digital platform for marketing. All of that adds up to 1.36 million. That's what we've been, that's the project that the state has funded, but only given us 363,000 towards. So it's really, what we're trying to do is close the funding gap as much as we can.
Well, I don't think 8,300 is gonna close that big of a gap, but it's a step in the right direction.
This would, ultimately, what we're trying to do is that we got the 363,
Yeah,
and if this board approves 70K, again, it doesn't have to happen today. That gets us closer. And, you know, in the meantime, we're gonna be looking for other funding sources.
But for the course of the work that was done to this point with Tangram, and then I understand the RFPs came in high, is the city picking up from that point?
Yeah, we're not gonna start all over.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm inclined to move forward with it.
yeah, are we comfortable enough to put a vote forward on this, or, just another show of hands thing? Comfortable enough to put a vote on this, or would we prefer to push this to the next meeting for more information?
Who is requesting the money, the city?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, so, okay, so you're on their behalf requesting it, so you have the knowledge of.
Who feels like, I'm comfortable putting a vote forward today, that just show of hands, just if everybody is okay doing a vote today, great. That's majority for that, so that wasn't a formal vote, sorry. We're going to, put forward a, vote by the board to increase the wayfinding funding by $8,300 from the initial amount approved, by a previous IDA board up to 70K. Do we have a motion for approval?
So move.
Thank you, Sue. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Sue. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Albert is opposed, and no abstentions or absences. Great. Okay, that concludes old business. On to Matt with the financials.
Financial position. As of May 31st, 2024, we have total assets of $1,092,204, with $974,934 of that in cash, with total liabilities of $39,781, which left us with a fund balance of $1,052,424. There were no significant changes in the state's financial position for the month of May. Our last report is the statement of activities. For the month of May, we had a deficit of $4,960. Most significant source of revenue was our interest earnings, and our largest expense was in our legal fees.
Thank you, Matt. Any questions for Matt before we?
Yeah, I got,
Go for it.
You go first, Albert.
so what's the story with the receivable?
That's a factory still.
Cookie factory is,
Okay, how far behind are they?
So that number represents their school tax bill from October, late fees all the way up to that, as well as their city and county, which is billed in February.
their last two pilot payments. And as they entered into their second to last pilot payment in September, their bank started foreclosure proceedings. As early as this Monday, the bank has reached out to me, and Matt was helpful in providing a current balance of something like $55,000 on the pilot with all the penalties and interest. They've agreed to pay it as the lender to get that receivable out of the way, and we would work with them to actually terminate the agreement. It's supposed to end on December 31st, so their next round of payment is actually full school taxes, which, whether they're prepared to pay that or not, our intent is to simply remove the IDA from the conversation, so we're not part of this. I think they're going to work it out, but ultimately we want to get our pilot caught up wrapped up, and then from there, they'll be on the tax rolls, and just like any other taxpayer. So, my hope is to get that resolved in the next 3 to 4 weeks. It sounded like the bank was willing to step in and take us out of the conversation for now. I mean, it's unfortunate, it's a great business. I think they're just kind of retooling. Hopefully that stays there.
Matt, I have a question, and this goes back before you, obviously, and before you. When we agreed to the 61 and change for the wayfinding, wouldn't that become a payable at that point?
Not until we actually agree to go and pay it. We've always budgeted for it, and it's always just, the can has been kicked down the road. As far as I've been here, it's always in our annual budget to come in with it, we just haven't.
So that's how we would have to track that things didn't start moving, because it would be budgeted to happen each year subsequent to that, okay.
Yeah, you appropriate it, hold it, and if it isn't spent in that given year, you're kind of carrying forward an appropriation that wasn't spent.
Because we could just be sitting here saying, oh, yeah, and then find out, oh, there are 10 things that haven't moved forward.
Yeah, every now and again, you can look at your budget and look at what's stale and see what you can maybe put aside that was never pursued and appropriate that back into your general fund. It's periodic maintenance. You could do that quarterly or annually. It depends on how actively you want to stay on top of it. I know you have to at the city level. I mean, that's more of an active monthly conversation with fund balance, but and I think you do have a rolling, with resolutions, we have a rolling approval process where we appropriate, but the money just sometimes doesn't move because of it hasn't been drawn on. I had one question. We closed Kings Landing 2 earlier this year. The administrative fee collected by the IDA was supposed to be split with the LDC. I just don't know if that's been attended to, or if you need a requisition from the LDC to process that.
I believe probably something from the LTC.
Yeah, that would help close the loop so you could remit on it. But that was the understanding, and when they paid the fee, it was all one lump sum to the IDA, and there was a question of whether they would pay it prorated to the LDC and the IDA, and I thought it best for you to collect in the first instance, and then you can process through a requisition working with Randy, and that's on the LDC side of the world. That the intent there was that the LDC brought the Federal Street corner into that project. So when those opportunities arise for the LDC to help an IDA project, the fee is split, and that helps the LDC with its programming and its obligations.
So you've been in conversation with the bank for the cookie factory.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to pay the taxes? Are they
the bank is
foreclosing?
going to make it whole. Yeah, I mean
Are they foreclosing on the bill?
They have an active foreclosure and a workout discussion going on right now. In the context of that, which I don't know that we need to get drawn into all of that, I've suggested that they just simply pay the pilot current, and we exit the transaction and let them work it out.
Did they give you an idea when they're going to pay it?
I keep poking at them. My hope would be to get it done in the next month or so. We don't need any board approvals. They can voluntarily surrender a pilot at any time, and we just record termination documents and then let the taxing jurisdictions know that the transaction's been terminated.
Are they still in business?
I'm not sure if they have an active production line there still, or if it's shut down. I'm not entirely sure. I know they leased most of it.
Yeah.
I guess Chris Alberino, is that his?
I think the bakery is still open.
Is it? Yeah.
I think.
I don't know if they scaled down production or if they're doing that elsewhere. I know they have a couple locations. This is intended to be the large one.
Yeah, because usually when the bank pays the taxes, it's not a good thing.
They're protecting their lien, and incidentally, we have a pilot
They don't want
mortgage
the
that they don't like.
Yeah.
We have a mortgage on their receivable.
Yeah.
So the bank's in a better position if we just kind of quietly exit.
Any other questions or comments from Matt or around the financial statements? If not, do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Albert. Do we have a second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? Absent? Nope. On to adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn the IG board meeting?
So moved.
Thank you, Sue, and I got Sue again.
The
All in
Sue.
favor? Aye.
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 Okay, on to CRC, and we have, we lost them, you might. They lost their patience. We had some of the, Historic Society people on, I think. We are going to call to order the, Troy Capital Resource Corporation Board of Directors meeting. It is June 21st, 2024, 10:51 a.m. We are going to start with the approval of the minutes from the May 30th, 2024 board meeting for all those that were in attendance. Do we have a motion to approve or any questions or comments?
Make the motion.
Thank you, Hasha. Second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Stephanie. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And Sue is abstaining. Yep.
I just have a quick question. Can Matt do the financials, ahead of the grant, because I think he has to.
That's fine with me.
Okay.
Yeah. We're gonna go out of order before the executive director's report. We're gonna put, Matt on the spot again with, the financial statements.
First report statement of financial position. As of May 31st, we had total assets of $384,083, with $169,083 net in cash. We had $5,834 in liabilities, which left us with a fund balance of $378,249. There are no significant changes in the financial position. And our last report is the statement of activity. For the month of May, we had a surplus of $157.42. Most of the source of revenue was our interest earnings, and our only expense was the monthly accounting fees.
Okay. Any questions or comments from Matt? If not, do we have a motion to approve? Thank you, Sue. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Oh, we got it, sorry. All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you, Matt. You can get out of here. Gonna circle back to the executive director's report.
Yeah, that'll be easy, because I have nothing to report. I didn't
Easy.
even know I was executive director.
Congratulations.
On to new business. We have a request for Powers Park. I assume this is the concert series for funding.
Is that Jim's office? Is that Jim?
Yeah, where's Jim? Is that him? Yeah, there we go. Jim, the floor is yours if you'd like to say anything about the Powers Park series. Well, are there any uninitiated who are not familiar with this project? Lansingburg Powers Park concert series. We've done historically do this every year. What is the funding request again for, what is it, 5,000? I don't have any further questions on it. This is what we had at this point, it feels like, for this board, which is good. Lansingburg needs these things. Do we, we're looking to approve 5,000 in funding. Unfortunately, we lost Jim. There we go. He always usually gives us the concert list, so that's something you can review.
Sorry, what is the attendance on these usually? What is the attendance on these?
Oh, I mean, it must be between at least 500 to 1,000.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So it's,
Fills the park.
it's quite a bit, yeah. It's dangerous. That's my only comment on these concerts, is there's a lot of road crossings. I'm surprised no one gets hit. Because people fly down that street.
Yeah, police.
They do.
They do, but I mean, it's like, it goes on for a long time, so it's just a lot of
And little kids, and,
Yeah. But people fly down, what is that, Second and River, that's just, it's a nightmare. So do we have a motion to approve the, funding request for 5,000 for the concert series? Ryan beat you to it, Sue. Do we have a second?
I'll second it then.
There you go. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. And no, opposed or absent or abstained. So this is this new one is, technically old business, but not really. The Charles now
Jim
walking
is calling in.
Oh.
Hi, Jim.
Hi, Sue, how are you?
Good. We just approved your $5,000 request.
I know I've been online trying to talk, but you know how technically challenged I can be.
Some things don't change, Jim. Just, what can I say?
It says mute, not mute, but there's got to be another button here somewhere because it just wasn't working. But
Okay.
I just want to thank everybody there for, again, supporting a great program in Lansingburg and understanding the value that this brings to our neighborhood. I'm so sad I'm not sitting there at the table with you guys. I miss you all, but I got to tell you, life is good just being just Jim.
We miss you too, Jim.
Take care, everybody, and please stop up to concerts and say hello.
Alrighty.
Okay.
Thank you, Jim.
Bye,
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
So back to this, so there, I'm gonna have Danae or Randy explain this a little better, because we had approved this project for, I can't recall the amount, 29.5, I think, was the amount that we approved in December for this project that was through RPI and a class that came in to present, and there's been a change. So it's the same exact project, but with a different stakeholder, I guess, a different leader of the project, if you guys can. Yeah.
Because I saw Catherine.
Yeah. So, thanks, Danae.
I never know if I'm supposed to talk or not. So we approved it and we went to issue them the check and we were gonna have them sign all the paperwork, and RPI couldn't really accept the funding without all these other requirements, and they were gonna charge them a fee to accept it. It's like I think it's just because the school's so large and they're used to really large projects maybe, and this was not something that fit into any of their boxes. So they had trouble accepting the funds and then had trouble getting the contract signed without a lot of other stipulations. So they talked to the Rensselaer County Historical Society, and they felt that it was a better fit for the website to live there and for them to be people in charge of the project. But I'd give credit to the RPI students that worked really hard on putting it all together. So they're gonna, the Charles Mowell landing page will be on the Art Fluid website, which makes a little bit more sense than the tours anyway, so. But it was some issues with accepting the funding and putting the contract together. RPI.
It definitely makes more sense for like hosting on that site, but there were questions from the board at that meeting about like who was building, like all of the people working on it, I imagine are the same.
Yeah.
So there's no.
We just kind of added in the Historical Society.
So and the check goes to.
And see the people that are doing the work.
And now the check goes to RCHS.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Do we have an actual application?
Yes, I had one that was partially filled out, but they returned a signed one, yesterday.
Do you have a budget?
Same as the budget that was before when RPI was here presenting it in December. The plaques, the different placards and the website.
Could you just attach it to the application, the budget?
Yeah, I could.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
I was
mainly.
looking at it, it's like, what's the money gonna be used for?
I remember the medallions and that they passed around.
Well, yeah, but you should still have a copy of the budget attached to the application, I mean, just to know what the money's being spent on.
Yeah, that gets added to the grant agreement itself as well, as the scope of work is being paid for. It sounds to me like we're just assigning the grant recipient status to another not-for-profit as opposed to the college who would be using the County Historical Society as a landing pad for the funding.
You know, a few years ago when RPI was in debt, I find it ironic that they were like, oh, this is too small for us. Sorry, that's all.
It was like, yeah, it was some things that they were gonna charge them a fee to accept the funding, and it had to go through this strange process of, so here's their original application. I they talked to us about both of the end. They're already a partner, but not.
There we go.
The breakdown for the plat, the website, that's the total that we had. So the budget's the same,
Okay,
just a different applicant so that they can accept the money.
okay, all right.
Any other, questions or anybody want to see anything else while Danae has it up? Or otherwise, do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Tasha, do we have a second?
Second.
Sue, all in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? Okay, that concludes our new business. We do not have any old business for today. We do not have any financials anymore, we passed that. So we have a motion to adjourn.
Make one. I'll second.
Thank you, Albert. All right, all in favor?
Aye.